Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes with our level 29 Dominator, Mister Eclipse. We have about 163,000 XP left to go. If you do the math on that, we will have well over a million XP when we hit level 30. And I'm trying to do some missions for Lori Pennington, but we hit a bug, so I wanted to kind of mention to you guys what that bug is. And we also need to go to the store for her and sell some stuff. This stuff, but also I got to get rid of some salvage because I am full up. So we'll get rid of some of the white stuff because I have so much of it. Um, Anything that I have a lot of, I'll just try to get rid of a few of them. There we go. So that should be enough for today. Yeah, this I have been encountering basically each contact has given me a mission. It's been, I think, a time mission every single time. When I don't have their phone number, that's bugged, and I can't call them up to auto-complete it, and I just have to wait, like log out and wait for the timer to run out. So this was an outdoor mission to save 7 hostages, and I saved 6 of them. You know, the outdoor map. It looks like the city streets, and you come out of the little red thing, and you're kind of on this side of the map, and you could go to the right or the left. And so I went to the left, and I went all the way around the map. And when I came back, I went to the right side, and right next to the dang entries point, there was a hostage cowering, but there were no captors. The NPCs had not spawned. And so I couldn't free him because there wasn't anybody to attack. So this is the third time something like this has happened. Once the hostage didn't spawn, and probably not his captors either. Once the hostage spawned, but the captors didn't, and once the boss didn't spawn. And I've had to autocomplete or just allow time to run out for all 3 of them. So I don't know what's going on. It seems to happen in the non-story arc missions, but there's been a lot of these bugs. I don't know if the Homecoming guys have introduced something that's causing this bug in their most recent update, or if the bugs have been there all along and I just got lucky and didn't do those missions recently. I don't remember having so much trouble with Liberty Lass when we played her, and that was on the same server just recently. So I don't know what the story is. But anyway, let us see what available missions we have. Okay, so now we're going to the Redemption of Alexander the Great. This is Warriors, and we're going to Talos Island. So you won't see the whole story arc, but you'll see this part of it. So this is our level 29 episode, and I just want to make like what did they used to call it? The station identification break or whatever, a programming note. That's it. Um, I have started recording some Let's Play of Ark, and I've started posting a few of those. Not many people are watching. I haven't gotten any comments, and if it turns out that people aren't interested, I'll probably stop posting. But I do want to point out that you should not take from the fact that there are a lot more Ark videos going up than there are City of Heroes that I'm not playing COH. I'm still playing this game as much as I always was. I've always played City of Heroes. I mean, except when Homecoming first came back and I kind of played it to death a little bit. I've pretty much been playing City of Heroes for a couple of years now, since the pandemic started. A good 30 to 60 minutes, averaging about 45 minutes a day, enough to make 1 episode, right? And whether I'm making an episode or not, that's about how long I play it. I don't play it for 4 or 5 straight hours. I don't play it for 5 minutes. And I've been continuing to play um, for about that amount, along with also playing Ark. Um, so I just want to make sure that people understand that, like, me playing Ark is not taking away from City of Heroes in any way, because I'm still playing COH. I'm just not recording it because you guys have seen all of these missions before. And there really isn't any point. 1 episode at level 29 is enough to show you how. Where am I? Not where I thought I was. 1 episode is enough at each level to show you how this character differs from Silver Phoenix or Tiger Shrike or Liberty Lass. You don't need to see it over and over and over again, in my opinion. And there really isn't anything to talk about unless, like I have today, I have stuff to rant about. I have 2 things to rant about. I don't know if I'll get them both done. If not, I might make a second episode here. We'll see. Um, But I just want to reassure people who may be interested in the COH content and not the ARC content that me recording ARC isn't making me play ARC more. I'm actually playing ARC a lot more than what I'm recording. If you watch the videos, you'll see that. And also, me playing ARC is not making me play COH less. I've been playing City of Heroes pretty much every day that I played ARC. What I usually do with City of Heroes when I'm not recording is I'll maybe listen to the news or something. And as I'm listening to that, I will just play because I can turn my brain off and play COH, which I can't really do with ARC. You could with ARC, and then Dinosaur would come along and eat you. So I try not to do that. So a couple things I wanted to rant about. The first one, maybe a long rant. I don't really know. I was watching a video that was I'm not gonna name who posted it because it's sort of a controversial person, and I don't want controversy really on this channel. But it was somebody who was talking about the recent absolute bombing of multiple AAA games in the last few months. That these games have cratered. They've cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have just absolutely just gone splat. Okay, there's 3 or 4 of them in the last like 3 or 4 months. There's basically like one a month. Had these big names, huge amount of supposed hype, and they have absolutely cratered. And this person was talking about this ridiculous phenomenon. Oh, are you going to attack me? Hopefully not. This ridiculous phenomenon of people when a game is being promoted early, like while it's still in development, right? You get concept art, you get ideas coming from the developers, and the players. Some of the players or potential player base, maybe if it's part 2 of a game or 3 of a game series, people played the previous games, or people played other games by this company, or other games like this before if it's a CRPG or something. They get the concept art, they get the basic idea of it, and they complain. They say, this is not the sort of thing that we players want. This doesn't look good. It doesn't look fun. It looks bad for whatever reason. And then you have people who are fans of it, who like these ideas, and they'll get mad, right? The fanboys and fangirls of games often, and other things like comic books and movies and TV shows, it's almost like they are the developers or the authors, and they take it very personally if you don't like something that they're a fan of. And the frequent, I don't know, siren song that you hear is, well, if you don't like this, don't buy it. Don't play it, right? Don't like it, don't play it. Don't like it, don't buy it. And that is a strictly true comment, okay? If you don't like something, you shouldn't buy it. And if you don't like a game, if you don't like City of Heroes, you shouldn't play it. But the problem is this is not meant as a helpful suggestion to somebody who doesn't like something. It is meant as a way of shutting down any negative comments, any criticism of, I hit twice, any criticism of the developers or of the game, right? And the problem with this is that if you shut down all of the negative feedback that you're possibly getting, and you only get feedback from yes men and yes women, right, then you don't hear the valuable stuff that could help you make the game good enough that people will want to buy it. And so what has happened is these games the concepts have been put out, the concept art has been put out, the ideas have been put out there, and a bunch of players have questioned it and complained about it. They're called haters, and the defenders of the game say, if you don't like it, just don't buy it. Why are you whining about this? Well, here's the reason that's dumb. And I talked about this on an American Truck Simulator episode, right? If you are grumbling about something, it means you're invested in it. It means you care about it, and it means you're a potential customer. What you're saying to the company is, if you make this game a little more, your game is close, and if you make it a little bit more the way I would like it to be, I am a potential customer. And so when somebody just says, oh my gosh, when somebody just says, if you don't like it, don't buy it, right? What that basically tells the person is, we don't want your feedback. We don't care about your feedback. We don't care what you like and don't like. We're not making this game for you. And then I don't buy it. Well, if you do that to enough people, or if you do that to the people who are the most likely to actually purchase and play the game, what am I doing here? I'm hitting the wrong button. Then those people will not spend the money that they would otherwise spend, and you won't make any money from them, right? You don't want to tell people not to buy your game, right? This is the most bewildering marketing strategy I've ever heard of. And it even has happened in Dungeons and Dragons. Happened to me when I saw what was happening in 5th edition, even before they were planning 6th edition and some of the changes they were making. I complained, and I was called all manner of names, and I was told, not by a developer, but by someone on the forums, look, this game isn't for you. You are not the target audience of this game anymore. They don't make the game. They're not making the game for grognards. They're making the game for a new audience of people who has different tastes, right? And what I said was, if the game is not for me, why am I buying it? Well, guess what? I'm not buying it. By the way, in case you wonder why I'm going ahead and actually fighting all 35 family, it's because since we don't have, I can show you, we don't have Lori Pennington's phone number, and this game does not allow you, or hasn't been allowing me, to autocomplete missions this way. Oh, now it is. Okay, yeah, we're going to autocomplete. We don't want to do this. It's boring. Now we got to return to Alexander. Why are we not returning to our own contact? This is just time sink. Everything we've done so far has been a time sink. Where's the story arc? Anyway, so now I complain about this. I go onto the forums, it's a live game, and I complain about this story arc. And a fanboy or a fangirl's response to me is, if you don't like it, don't play the game. Okay, well, this was a subscription-based game. If I say, okay, fine, I'm not going to play the game and I cancel my subscription, they just lost $15 a month. And that may only be $15 a month, but if enough people do that, they're losing $15,000 a month or $150,000 a month, right? And that's the problem with don't like it, don't play it. It's not meant to help you find a game you like. Whoops, wrong thing. It's meant to shut down any negative commentary, any criticism, constructive or otherwise, of the game. And it's supposedly people who love it. Maybe it is people who love it the way it is. But if you really like the game and you really wanted it to succeed, you should want people to want to buy and play the game, right? It's the most bizarre marketing strategy I have ever seen, and it has almost destroyed the DC and Marvel Comics companies. It's wreaking havoc with a number of movie studios and TV production houses. It is littering the gaming landscape with absolute corpses from AAA gaming companies, okay? And this is the attitude that what they want to do is target all the people who never used to play these types of games. Now, I understand it's motivated probably by the idea that you want to. Oh, I didn't show you guys how we enhance these powers, did I? I'll show you that after we're done talking. Somebody remind me. No, you guys can't remind me, but hopefully I'll remind myself. It is true. You want to keep growing your audience, right? And if you don't attract new players or new subscribers or new customers, you won't grow your audience. But the idea that you're going to basically create something that you know your existing audience of loyal customers doesn't like, the people who are proven year after year, time after time, that they will buy your stuff, to say we're going to ignore those people, we're going to not give them what they usually like, and we're going to instead try and get an audience of people who've never been loyal to us before to suddenly become loyal, and we're going to bank on those new people. This makes absolutely no sense to me as a business strategy. Yes, you want new customers, but you want to keep the existing customers. You don't want to lose them. That is not a gain, right? That is not a plus. Why is there only one at a time here? I hope we're not having things not spawning again. Um, I've cited it before. This happened with Star Wars Galaxies, right? Star Wars Galaxies, when it launched, was considered reasonably successful. It was one of the more subscribed to MMOs at that point. They had, I think, at peak about 300,000 subscribers. It eventually went down to in the low twos, like 220 or 30,000. It was still a pretty decent amount. And then World of Warcraft came out, and World of Warcraft instantly skyrocketed to like 7, 8, 900,000 subscribers, right? God, I hate these knockdowns. Here, go fight the other guy for me. Go knock him down. Um, Eventually, it had like 1 million subscribers, and Star Wars Galaxies only had a couple 100,000. And so they felt like we want to get those. If there's 1 million people playing World of Warcraft, that means there are 1 million MMO players out there, and 800,000 of them are not playing our game, right? Maybe the 200,000 are, but the other 800,000 aren't. And what we want to do is attract the 800,000 World of Warcraft players who don't like Star Wars Galaxies as it is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to redevelop the game. We're going to create this thing we call the new gaming experience, right? The new game experience of Star Wars Galaxies. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically, as one friend of mine said, wow it up. We're going to convert it so that it plays like World of Warcraft rather than Star Wars Galaxies. And they did this to chase the audience of MMO players who were playing MMOs but not playing Star Wars Galaxies by making Star Wars Galaxies play like the MMO they were playing, with zero, absolutely zero guarantee that any of them were going to want to play Star Wars Galaxies. They just hoped that they would. And in doing this, they threw out all of the gameplay that the 200,000 loyal subscribers had been paying them for months, years. Okay? Yeah, I know it's only 200,000, and 200,000 is a lot less than 1 million. And if you could have got those other 800,000, that would have been great. But it was a bad bet because they had absolutely no evidence, no data to suggest that the people who were playing World of Warcraft were A, going to even try the new game experience, and B, going to stick. At that point, they honestly didn't even know if the people were going to stick in World of Warcraft because it was a new game. It had only come out like 6 months before. And the people playing Star Wars Galaxies had been many of them had been subscribers, including me, for 2 years. Right? So those are known loyal customers who have been subscribing to you for 2 years, and you don't even know if the World of Warcraft people are going to stay in World of Warcraft for 2 years, let alone play your game at all, let alone play your game for a couple of years. Now, again, if they'd gotten all 800,000, 800,000 for 6 months would probably be better than 200,000 for 2 years. But they never got them. A couple months after the new gaming experience came out, Star Wars Galaxies was down to 50,000 people because 150,000 of the 200,000 loyal customers hated the new way the game was, and nobody came over to that game from World of Warcraft. And it limped along with 50,000 customers in maintenance mode for a bunch of years. Never really made any money for Sony after that. And when Knights of the Old Republic came out, it was pulled. The plug was pulled. Okay, but it was realistically it was a zombie game from 2000 and whatever 6 or 2005 until 2010 or whatever when they pulled the plug. So this is the risk that they run, and I don't understand the logic of deliberately ticking off your existing loyal customers in the hopes of chasing the quote-unquote modern audience of new players who don't like the old way the game was, but they would like this new way. And there's no evidence that they're going to be loyal the way the original customers were. right? Dungeons and Dragons is the same way. There are people playing 5th edition who played 1st edition and 2nd edition, right? And they've been playing D&D for decades, longer than some of the D&D devs have been alive. All right. And so to say we're going to create a game system that those people aren't going to like, just so that we can capture this new, basically imaginary audience, is so risky. I really don't know how they justify it. To themselves? To their shareholders? It's craziness. It's been shown to fail over and over again. And, the new game experience, New Coke is another great example, right? Coke was chasing the Pepsi fans, the people who drank Pepsi and didn't like Coke. Coke wanted to attract them, so they made a version of Coke that tasted more like Pepsi. And all the people who loved Coke hated it and complained about it, right? The Pepsi fans didn't start drinking Coke. They stuck with Pepsi. Why, if you're a Pepsi fan, would you want to drink another brand that tastes like Pepsi? You could just have a Pepsi, right? And if you're a Coke fan, you didn't like Pepsi, you liked Coke better. So when they tried to make Coke taste more like Pepsi, that's not what you wanted. So the Coke fans stopped buying Coke and the Pepsi fans kept buying Pepsi. Crashed and burned, and they had to go back to the old Coke, which they're still making. The new Coke died on the vine, right? It was the same thing. They went after, they abandoned their proven loyal customers to go after a new modern audience, a new set of customers that likes the modern taste, right? Pepsi was the taste of the new generation. That was their commercial. And they tried to make it that it was hip, right? It's a newer cola. It's been around a long time, but it's not as old as Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is your grandparents' drink. It's your parents' drink. The cool stuff is Pepsi. So Coke was trying to be cool. We can be cool too. Well, didn't work. Because the Pepsi fans still preferred Pepsi. And the Coke fans didn't like Pepsi, which is why they were Coke fans in the first place. Right? Same idea. Same thing with Dungeons and Dragons, right? That 6th edition is meant to appeal to a very different type of audience that Wizards of the Coast is hoping is way bigger than the gaming nerds that used to play the earlier editions of D&D and will stick. But there isn't yet any evidence that those people will... It's a bigger audience, but there isn't any evidence that they're going to stick. There isn't any evidence that when another YouTube show comes out that's a bigger hit than Critical Role and is playing a different type of a thing like a board game, there's no evidence those people aren't going to jump ship immediately. And they probably will if they're in it for the fad, if they're in it for the fashion statement. Fashion is cyclical. It doesn't stick. And this seems to be what a lot of companies don't understand. I don't get it. Right? I can understand trying to appeal to new customers, but when you do it by changing your thing, whatever it is, your game, your cola, your movie style, whatever it is, into something unrecognizable by the existing fans, you're throwing the new fans under the bus, the old fans under the bus who've been loyal to you for decades in the pursuit of a new fan base that may not realistically exist. It's all speculative. You're hoping it will exist. You're hoping they'll be as loyal as the old customers. Right? Same thing with, like they're doing this with stuff like Star Wars and all of that, right? So it's like, okay, you have people who have been Star Wars fans since 1977. And you're going to say, well, you guys are the old guys. We're chasing a new generation of fans. But the young people, the young people haven't been fans for 45 years. And the existing fans who have been fans for 45 years are the sorts of people who've spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on this stuff. And you're going to say, well, we don't want you anymore. We want a new audience, an audience that's never spent any dollars on it. That, to me, is nuts. And they're doing it with a lot of different types of games and a lot of different types of media. There's a boss. I don't have domination up, so we need a little bit of this, but we should be alright, because I think he's alone. And if we hit him twice, we should be able to hold him. There we go. So yeah, I don't really understand this whole business of if you don't like it, don't buy it, right? Are you in the business of selling something or not, right? And it's not the new fans who are saying we're not going to buy this. It's what happens is the existing fans who love the game and want it, or the movie or whatever, right? The existing Star Wars fans, the existing Marvel movie fans, the existing D&D players, the existing fans of the video game, right? The existing gamers. Those are the people who are saying we don't like this and are being told by pretty much the newer people who came on board because of the new thing, oh, don't like it, don't play it, don't buy it. And what this one guy was saying is, do you even realize what you're saying? So yeah, I don't know if it's me. I've never run a company or anything, but if it's me, I would value the loyal customer, because these are the people who have been with you for a long time, through thick and thin. They like what you've been doing. Why wouldn't you want to keep them? Instead, they're like, yeah, you guys can go scratch, as my grandmother would say. Don't like it, don't play it. Well, you do that to enough of your loyal customers, you're not going to have any sales. See New Coke and Star Wars New Game Experience. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. How are we doing on time? 27 minutes. So we got a little more to do. Are we even going to get her phone number? I hope we do have her phone number now. Finally. Let's go talk to this guy. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, if we going back to D&D, because that's come up a little bit, is that I was reading something on the D&D Beyond forum that actually I was like, wow, this is actually pretty interesting. It was talking about why 5th edition, and probably now 6th, is so hard for GMs to get the difficulty right, to get the challenge right. It's either way too easy or way too hard. And what the one person said is that there's the huge difference between 5th edition and, say, original D&D is that Chief of Terravolta, you've got to be kidding me. With the Sky Raiders, you've got to be kidding me. All right, well, this is, I guess I'm not going to rant about this too much, because I think what I'm going to do is stop and wait until I can clear this mission. I'm not going into Terravolta and doing a bunch of Sky Raiders. It's such a waste. And this is his story arc, right? We're on a story arc for her? Oh no, we're not. I thought we were on a story arc. I guess it was a mini arc. So we still don't have an actual story arc from her. Yeah, so what they were saying, I guess we can do this a little bit. What they were saying is that in first edition D&D, because characters were fairly fragile, because attacks did relatively more damage to you relative to your hit points than they do in 5th edition, after even on first level. Because there was a save or die mechanic to a lot of things in first edition D&D, individual characters were much more fragile, and individual characters were much more likely to die. But you were less likely to get a total party kill, a TPK, because the character might have died because a goblin just hit him with a mace and did 7 damage and he only has 5 hit points. But that's not going to wipe the rest of the party, and party kills the goblin, and that's the end of the fight, and one guy has to make up a new character. There are traps in AD&D where you have to save versus poison or whatever, turn to stone, etc., or die, or be permanently turned to stone. And so Well, only one character is going to die from that trap, right? What he was saying is poison traps don't really kill you anymore. They just impose disadvantage until the long rest, right? And most stuff in D&D doesn't one-shot kill you. So basically you have to do so many hit points to a character that they could die. And he said the problem is that when you put the player characters into a situation where one person can die, it's a situation in which everybody could die, like a dragon breathing on all of them and doing 85 hit points to all of them and they all wipe, right? Because it's so hard to kill a character with Revivify and Healing Word and all of this other stuff, and they get death saves, and they can the other players can do Healing Word or a Potion of Healing or something to get you out of the death saves and back to positive hit points. You don't die at 0 hit points. You don't only have 5 or 6 hit points at low level. You don't have to make saving throws or die. So individual player characters are much harder to kill. And if you're doing enough to the party to kill a player character, you're doing enough to wipe the party. And so he said what has ended up happening, sort of ironically, is that in 5th edition, you have either it's too easy or there's a party wipe. You don't have one character dying, you have all the characters dying. This was a guy who's GM 5th edition, I guess, since it came out. And he said, whereas in a lot of the previous editions of D&D, but especially 1st edition, it was a lot easier to sort of accidentally kill a single player character, but it was much less likely you were going to get a party wipe. Because players knew their characters were fragile. If somebody died, often they grabbed the body and the rest of the party fled, and they shut the door and they hammered iron spikes in the door to block it, and then they got the heck out of that dungeon, right? Because they realized this is too tough for us. Whereas in 5th edition, because players can keep getting revivified and healing worded and healing potioned and everything else to bring them back from death saves, you have them going down and coming up, going down and coming up, and then all of a sudden, the resources are gone, the monsters are still attacking, and it goes bam, 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 and everybody's down. Right? And there's no way, nobody's going to die from a pit trap, nobody's going to die from a poison needle trap, nobody's going to die outside of combat ever, which happened a lot in AD&D, right? You could, from a trap or something like that, right? So it's only going to happen in combat. And the GM, if you're going with the die rolls, has sort of the least control over whether they kill a character in combat, right? Versus whether you let a trap get triggered or not, right? If you see that the party is really low in hit points and they walk over a pit trap on your map as a GM in AD&D, you could just be like, nah, I won't run it, right? But in the middle of a combat in a party, especially if you roll in front of the screen, you almost can't help but kill them if the battle is too tough, right? And so, yeah, I said, it's really an interesting point, and I think it's actually correct that in AD&D it was easier for individual characters to die, but harder to wipe the party. And the reason most game masters have trouble challenging a party is because you can see that the thing you're putting in there that might challenge them has the potential to wipe the party, and you don't want to do a TPK, right? You want it to be challenging, but you don't want to do a TPK. And so in order to prevent the TPK, you have to make it so easy that nobody ever goes to 0 hit points. And it never seems threatening. And so, yeah, that's the other sort of thing that I wanted to mention. I personally agree with that, but leave your comments as to whether you agree or not. So with that, I think we will stop. I do want to show you my enhancements. So what I did at 29th level is I added a slot to Nightfall because I use it a lot, so we're doing more damage with it. And I added a heal slot to Life Drain. I want to actually have that on triple heal because when I do get damage, it's really nice to be able to just target them, drain some of their life, and grab health back. And then I want to put double damage on it as well. Might do single damage, double ack. We'll see. And then Nightfall, obviously, I want to have triple damage on it because I use it a lot. It's an AoE, and it does really good AoE damage. We have a lot of other things to slot. I also want to get the Haunts done, and I want to get Possess and Living Shadows slotted. Honestly, I almost never need to use Shadowfield or Fearsome Stare, so at this point, right now, I'm not planning on slotting them until I've got these other powers done. And of course, at level 30, we're probably going to get... we're probably going to get Umber Beast. And then that will definitely need to be slotted because that's going to be our super pet. But I am not going to defeat 35 Sky Raiders in Terra Volta. That is just way too mind-numbing, and you guys don't need to see that. So I'm going to wait a couple of days. I may, since we're not on a story arc, I may try another contact and do some leveling up with another contact. And if that one gives me a story arc first, I'll ignore her. Otherwise, in 3 days, I will come back to Lori and try to get her story arc. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Um, okay, so I don't really need that mission, so we'll just leave it. But until next time, I am Scrapper Lock, and this has been City of Heroes.